Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Long Shot Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Duncan Robinson, and I'm here with my esteemed colleague, Davis Reed.
We are back, and I'm esteemed, which is exciting.
Yeah, you definitely are. You've earned that. That's a well-earned esteemed. But yeah, here we are, episode 4. Once again, haven't been canceled yet, which is pretty exciting stuff. So continuing to develop some momentum here, which is fun. But the Heat right now we're in a little bit of a homestand, which is nice. Nice to be back in Miami. Still can't go anywhere because of the protocols, but nonetheless, nice to be back in Miami. And we're actually starting to play in front of some fans now too, which is fun.
Yeah, how's that been? I wanted to ask you. It's 2,000 people now. Does it feel back to normal, or is normal now empty arenas, so it's weird to have fans?
Well, I'll tell you what. The first game back with fans might have been 2,000 people. It felt like 30,000, just because I think everybody had grown accustomed to the dead quiet arenas with the pumped in, fake crowd noise. But it's definitely nice to be back in front of our fans and just hearing, any sort of feedback that they can give throughout the course of a game, any sort of momentum, when we go on a run, big stop, big shots, all that sort of stuff. So it's fun to be playing in front of people again, for sure.
That's beautiful. And you guys it seems like the Heat are starting to get back to full strength, right? Like Jimmy's back, Goran's back the other night. So it's been exciting just as a fan too, not only to have a little more energy in the arena from fans, but just to see, the Heat we all know and love back on the court.
Yeah, we're getting back to healthy, which is, obviously the main priority is just getting the group back together, getting the band back, if you will. But now it just becomes about, building that chemistry, that rapport, and starting to figure some things out. Obviously, it's no surprise that we haven't had the start that we all anticipated or obviously wanted. But the reality is we are where we are, and we got to just start figuring things out. So certainly the sense of urgency is definitely at an all-time high, given how the start of the season has gone.
Yeah, and there's a lot to go. I wanted to ask, news that came out this week, it seems like we're trending towards an AllStar Weekend, potentially. Not only an All-Star game, but a Saturday night, which means, knock on wood, we may get a chance to see a Duncan Robinson redemption 3-point contest. Has that crossed your mind at all, or is that something you're not focused on in the least?
I've heard whispers of the potential All-Star game. And the Saturday night, like you mentioned. We'll see. I don't know. I think it's just in talking to some people around the league, I think it's far from a surefire thing, but it is exciting that it could happen. I think particularly for guys that are having great years, the opportunity to play in an All-Star game, I imagine is a once in a lifetime thing. So I think we got a couple guys on our roster that are certainly worthy. But as for Saturday night, yeah, I don't know. I'd love to get back there. We'll see if the invite comes around or if it even happens. I absolutely laid an egg last year, something that still eats at me a little bit, but
leads to a lot of sleepless nights.
It did back then. I've now finally come to terms with it, but now it's right now it's the focus is on winning basketball games for the Miami Heat. But if that comes around and it's an opportunity that I'm fortunate enough to have a chance at, then of course I'd love to do it. But we'll see. A long ways from them, but in the meantime, just gonna try to focus on continuing to do my job here for the Heat.
You can keep giving me the media answer. That's fine. But we need a 3-point championship out of you at some point.
At some point. It's certainly a goal that I want to check, a box that I want to check in my career. If it happens this year, fantastic. If it doesn't, it's hopefully we got some other years that we could have a crack at it. But I will say the 3-point competition is such a weird experience. I went through it last year, obviously, and you don't really get a warm up. you get like 2 minutes where it's just like a free shoot right before, and then you sit down for another 20 minutes before you even get to shoot. It's just such a, and then shooting off the rack is weird. Also, it's so unnatural. I didn't really get a chance to practice. I kind of found out, and we went on a road trip, so it's not like I could, set up racks in our home gym and do it. We were always on the road and just had a hard time getting the infrastructure in place to practice. But that's not to make any sort of excuses, because I think it was Buddy Hield who won, well-deserved last year. But I think if anything, what I took away is that I need to be better, in future competitions.
There it is.
Yeah. So the blame doesn't go anywhere else but on me, on my shoulders, and I just want to make that clear. But it is a weird situation. I'd also like to say that.
I'm happy to hear that you had gotten over last year's defeat, and I'm also glad that I just brought it right back up so you can now just have it fresh on your mind. Udonis Haslem recently, OG, referred to you as the greatest shooter he's ever played with, I believe. Was the quote. He was on Kenyon Martin's podcast. I don't know if you've seen that, but what does that mean to you? Not only to have a OG like Udonis Haslem say that about you, but you're on the Miami Heat. So to have your veteran in the locker room instilling that confidence in you, when you hear something like that, what goes through your mind?
It's incredibly high praise, as you mentioned. I mean, he's played with some big time players, some big time shooters. Just to hear that I would be in the conversation is special. I think maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, just in the fact that I'm his current teammate. But I'll also say this: I have a long ways to go before I'm even in the category as some of those guys, and I think the biggest differentiator is longevity, and that I've really only done it for 1 year, and the real test is going to be if I can continue to do it for years, plural. Some of those guys, particularly Ray Allen. I mean, he's, in my opinion, if not the greatest, the second greatest. I think right now the greatest probably has to go to Steph, just because he's literally revolutionized and changed the game. But Ray Allen is certainly right up there, and the shots that he's hit, the moments that he's had, and the stages that he's performed on at such a high level and for such a long time. So I appreciate the praise. It's crazy, incredibly humbling, and Udonis is an incredible leader and one of the best teammates I've ever been around. But nonetheless, I still think I got a ways to go before I feel like I can actually, wear that crown.
Fair enough. Another kind of humble media answer from you, but we'll accept it.
Well, I mean, it's the truth, though. So like at what point, yes, it may be a media answer, but it is also the truth. That's genuinely how I feel.
You have good perspective on these things, so yes, it's the truth. But I'm just looking for you one of these days to be like, yeah, guys, I am the greatest shooter of all time. We'll get there.
Well, you can keep looking, because I just don't know if that's going to happen outwardly anytime soon. I have an extreme amount of confidence in myself, but I try to stay away from the outward bravado, if you will. I want to transition, because
of course you do.
This is a huge weekend for Davis Reed. The Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, and I just want to say for everyone listening that there are a lot of recently acclaimed Chiefs fans, guys that have come out of the woodwork, Pat Mahomes all of a sudden, and now they want to be Chiefs fans when they didn't really care when Alex Smith was back there slinging it. I just want to point out that Davis is a Kansas City native, first of all.
Yes.
And a long time tenured Chiefs fan, like the real deal. And if I had the opportunity to call him a fake fan, oh my gosh, I would jump at it, because I really would love to do nothing more. But I really have to give him credit in that he is a true salt of the earth Chiefs fan. Obviously, they have a huge game this week. And how are you feeling?
I feel great. First of all, thank you for that praise. I do have to quickly come clean. My father was born in Denver. So when I was a kid, he was a Broncos fan and I was a Broncos fan because I wanted to be like my dad. That quickly, though, changed to the Chiefs when I moved away from Kansas City, because once you're out of the city, there's the nostalgic factor there, and that was before Mahomes. That was before, So, but I appreciate the praise. How do I feel? Incredibly nervous. It's great that we're back, but going up against Tom Brady in Tampa in his home stadium now is just scary. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers were probably the better team, but it almost just feels like destiny is written. We get into this a little bit with our conversation with Willie, but it almost feels like too much of a storybook ending for Tom to go to Tampa and then bring a Super Bowl in his home stadium. It just, it feels like there's some bad juju in the air, but you can't bet against Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So
you can't.
We'll see.
The weaponry that they have on offense is absolutely incredible, just dynamic. So I'm obviously gonna be excited to watch that one. Actually, we had the privilege last year of being in attendance for their Super Bowl victory,
yes,
which was a special moment as well.
So, Dunk, this is an opportunity for me to tell one of your greatest friendship stories. It's a moment that I'll never be able to repay you for. So you were offered one Super Bowl suite ticket, Super Bowl's in Miami, or 3 tickets up in the upper deck, the nosebleeds, if you will. And you accepted the latter option because you wanted to allow me and another one of our friends, Ben Novin, shout out to Ben.
Shout out to Ben.
To come to the Super Bowl with you. We're both from Kansas City. We're Chiefs guys. So we fly out to Miami for a ticket that you give us. Again, just incredible. We're up at the upper deck in our seats, watching teams warm up, getting ready for the game. Lo and behold, you get a call from the Verizon suite saying, hey, we got room for you. You can come in. So Ben and I are thinking, oh, you go to the suite. We'll stay up in the upper deck. No. All 3 of us can come to the suite.
It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. Long
story short, because of you, I got to watch the Chiefs win a Super Bowl in a suite with food, drink, everything. It's a night that I think forever, regardless of how my life goes, will be a top 3 night in my life. And it was just, again, a moment that I'll never be able to repay you for, and something that you're going to be able to hold over me for the rest of our days.
I appreciate you pumping my tires a little bit. And it's also noted that you are now forever indebted to me. I think it's appropriate that we shout out Jonathan from Verizon for making that entire thing happen. Certainly wouldn't have happened without him. He was the man behind it all. But yeah, in my opinion, it was really a no-brainer. I didn't have any skin in the game in that I'm not a Chiefs fan, so I didn't really care to go to the game, truthfully. But it was an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. I'd never been to one, so I wanted to go. And you guys are, like I said, both from Kansas City, both diehard Chiefs fans. It just felt like the right thing to do. And of course, as karma would have it, we're able to parlay the third deck seats into some sweet tickets before the game even started, I think. Right?
Yep. I just had a flashback. I'll never forget the infamous play now, Wasp, that the Chiefs ran.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when they were running that play. You said, they got him. Oh my God, they got him. Because we were in that end zone. So we could see the whole thing develop, and you saw Tyreek break and he was wide open, and Duncan hit us with a, oh my God, they got him. And from that moment on, the rest of the night was just magical.
That's a sharp memory out of you. If I remember, I think you were a couple tequila sodas deep at that point.
Look, man, it was an open bar. I was at a Super Bowl with my friend who just got me into a suite. Don't hold that against me.
Yeah, I mean, I was a designated driver. I had a game the next day, but you two were certainly enjoying the festivities, as you should. Celebrating a Super Bowl victory. But yeah, that was a fun memory for sure.
Incredible. Real quickly, I want to hit on, because we're on football, there are also some rumors that NCAA football is going to make a push back or a comeback.
That's right.
Which I think NCAA football gets some credit for why you and I are even friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's partially responsible for bringing us together, but also responsible for putting a wedge in our relationship as well. Because I used to absolutely give you the business in that game back in the day, to the point where I think we had some stretches where we wouldn't speak to each other, just because the games weren't even close. Like you would rage quit repeatedly after being down 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half. So I excited to bring that game back. That certainly is one that's near and dear to both of us.
I do need to come clean about that. I think in episode 1, I falsely state that I was better than you at that game. I will admit that you're right. You had some sleepless nights about the 3-point competition. I have some sleepless nights about you beating me in NCAA football, something that I don't really want to talk about. Just like you've dodged the Udonis calling you the best shooter, I'm going to dodge this one. Let's move on to the Reddit question of the day. So we've got a good one this week. This one I've seen posted quite a bit, actually. So there are probably a few users that we could give credit for this one. But the latest I've seen comes from Rugged Belief System. User Rugged Belief System. Another great name.
Love it.
And they ask, if you could change one thing about the NBA, what would it be? So you can take this in any direction you want. The way I'm taking this is like a rule. A rule within the game that you could change about the NBA.
Interesting. Well, I'm actually going to take it a different direction then.
Please do.
And I'm going to, from a player perspective, there is a part about the NBA that, in my opinion, makes absolutely no sense. And it happens before the game, actually. Prior to tip-off, I believe it's an hour and a half, maybe to an hour before tip-off, there is, and this is pre-COVID, mind you, so now it's all different, but pre-COVID, there is media availability in the locker rooms, in the team locker rooms. And what ultimately ends up happening, and mind you, oftentimes it's the same beat reporters that are around you every single day. So if they really had a question, they could have asked you the day before after practice, or they could just wait till after the game. So what ends up happening is all of these reporters come in and nobody really has any questions. There might be a couple questions that are asked within the first 30 seconds, but then what ends up happening is people just stand around for about 30 minutes straight, and they're just awkwardly, all the reporters are just kind of awkwardly in there. And at one point I remember asking somebody, like, why do you guys come in here if you just kind of stand and look around? And their answer is that, well, we don't want to miss anything. So what ends up happening is that everybody just ends up being in there for no reason other than the fact that they don't want to miss anything. And nothing really ever happens. So as a result, players just feel uncomfortable that reporters are like always watching them and kind of around them, and you just can't really be yourself. And it's just results in this like awkward tension that just always happens. And I just don't understand why that's still a thing. I just feel like there's plenty of media availability. If they ever have a question, there's plenty of opportunities for them to ask us. And I think that just in general, that should be removed.
Are they watching you change?
So, I mean, so that's part of it, is that it's just like, you have your pregame rituals, routines that you partake in, and they're there for all of it. And it's just like something that should be like private. It just always feels very public.
Yeah, I didn't actually really know that is how things went down. That's strange. But now that you say that, I do remember listening to an interview with Andre where he talks about, I think maybe it's you guys, but also the Warriors, a group of players will just go in the bathroom and sort of hide and just kind of get away from everything.
Yeah, that's ultimately what ends up happening, is that players just don't spend time in the locker room and they're dispersed all over. So that would be the one thing that I would change. Other than that, I think it's just a great league.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna go a different direction. I'm gonna go on court rule. I think that we should change the rule with end of quarter, end of half court shots. Shouldn't count as an attempt unless it goes in. Because what I don't like is that no one wants to take that 3/4 court shot at the end of the quarter, because then it's an 0 for 1 when it's like you have such a little chance of making it. But if we just remove the rule that it doesn't count as an attempt, guys are going to start launching them. And then every once in a while they're going to go in, and how great is that? Like, I want you taking more 3/4 court shots is what I'm getting at.
Well, so I take pride in always letting it fly, no matter what. But I'm actually going to take it one further. I think that they should just be their own statistical category.
Ooh.
the same way you have a 3-point percentage, I think that you should have like a half court and a full court or something, anything past half court. But what it does is it doesn't count against your field goal and your 3-point. Because
like that.
I'm sure there are guys that, especially if you're a guard and you end up with the ball in your hands a lot, I'm sure that at the end of the season, if you were to take it every time, that ends up being 20, 25 shots that you miss that are detracting from your field goal percentage or 3-point percentage. That's a big difference. And especially when some people are getting, bonus incentives based off of percentages and all sorts of different things. Of course, guys are not going to shoot them. So I think that they should just be their own statistical category altogether.
I love it. That's a great call. All right. You want to quickly hit our long shot feature this week?
Yeah, exciting long shot feature. I will say the first long shot feature last week I felt was a big hit. So we're excited to make this one a repeated segment.
Yeah.
So this one, we got my guy, Michael Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
He is a Heat fan who is currently recovering from a very rare form of bone marrow cancer.
Yeah.
I think he was diagnosed with it last year, has gone through chemo or maybe is still going through, but is recovering right now. And it was rare to the point where his doctor, he said this was the second case that his doctor had ever seen, and that he needed a procedure and a transplant that not many doctors had ever performed.
Yeah.
Like just truly a long shot in the sense of this is just rare air.
100%.
So we are excited to also report that he has made it through these procedures and he's on the other side and he's in great spirits. And we're also learning that he's keeping his recovery for the public and is documenting it as inspiration through both Instagram and TikTok, and that his main goal is to continue to inspire others to keep fighting and to never give up despite the odds and despite any form of adversity that is thrown your way. So shout out to our guy, Michael Kramer, for that. Certainly keeping things in perspective this week for all of us.
Yeah, amazing, incredible story, and another one that we're just very thankful that they're sharing with us.
He's also a Heat fan, so I don't know if I did add that in the beginning, but want that to be known. All right, so that's our long shot feature, and now we're just moving on to our conversation with Willie Cauley-Stein. Yeah,
this is a special one for me. Willie and I went to high school together, so it was great to reminisce on those days, but also just catch up. And I think it was an incredible conversation. He's an incredibly interesting dude, so I'm excited for you guys to hear this one. Dunk, if you had to describe this convo in one word, what would it be?
I got the one word I would use is eclectic. I think just in general, the conversation goes a lot of different directions, and Willie in general is a very eclectic guy. So super excited for you guys to hear this one. And here's Willie.